marketing can be very templated if you're not careful. I think being in the right environment is important, right? Intentionality is important. You always have to have a game plan. Even when you don't have a game plan, you always have to have something that is driving and pushing you. Action speaks louder, and action comes when other people see the work you're doing and how it impacts them, right? And they then go and start advocating for you. People should know what you're about. That's the reality. But people should know you have substance. And when people know you have substance, especially the right people, they would advocate for you in rooms that you're not in. So that one is one of the things that I would advise.
Hello everyone, welcome to Stories and Journeys, where we explore the transformative power of learning, growth, and resilience. Join us as we uncover untold narratives and ignite curiosity. My name is Oluwatimileyin Uyedeji, and joining us here today is an amazing leader within the industry across the continent of Africa, someone with well over a decade and a half of experience helping brands ensure that they drive top revenue, very strong on brand and marketing strategy. She's a strategist at the heart of it with so much wealth of knowledge and experience, helping brands within the tech space ensure that they remain relevant, remain competitive, drive acquisition, understand their consumers, and just remain top across that vertical. She's no other person than Adetutu Laditan. Adetutu.
Thank you. That was an intro.
Yeah, thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
You're welcome.
I'm sure that our audience will learn so much from you.
Yes.
And I will try to go a bit back, looking at your journey in 2009. So when you just cast your mind back at that first day, resuming at Capital, in 2009. And if you look at your journey till date, from there you moved on to work with Media Rich OMD, then worked with Google, did some great stuff with YouTube at the time, and now you're currently principal consultant of Woof Studios. What has that journey been like for you as a person?
Well, casting back to 2009, I just had to go click. When did I do NYSC? Okay, so I mean, for me, it's been well over a decade of, right? Yeah, it's been well over a decade of just learning. And I'm still learning to date. I feel like looking back at studying public relations and advertising in university, I went to Lagos State University, by the way, in a time where technology wasn't there. So we're practicing PR and we're doing digital and we're doing everything in very little. It was there, but not as advanced. We didn't really have social media. I think Facebook was there, but Instagram hadn't come, TikTok hadn't come. And so we were learning within, we used to read Philip Kotler, that's the name of the marketing journalist, right? We used to read all of those. So we knew marketing differently. And so my first job with Capital Media and post NYSC was digital media planning and strategy. And with media planning, we had tools, but it was also very, very sort of manual in a certain way, right? So spent about 2 or so years being a strategist at Capital Media, worked on the MTN accounts and met a lot of leaders that are currently business leaders that helped manage my career within that part. Then I joined OMD, Media Reach, which I feel is one of the best decisions that has helped me so far. At Media Reach, I did pretty much what I was doing also within the media planning and strategy stage of things. So I worked on a few accounts, Diageo, EcoBank, Standard Charts, and a few other accounts there. But it was one of those ones that stretched you because you're in an agency that demanded, high quality of work. And because the standards were so high, right, you learned a lot. It was such a disciplined environment. So that helped shape me. And within that period, I made some friends, one of which was the guy who was working at Google. And we used to talk about different things in the marketing space, media and all. So when the Google job opened up, he referred me. So I think you'd be fantastic for this. And that's how in 2013 I applied, did a couple of interviews and resumed in 2014. And I was at Google till 2024. So I spent 10 years there. I joined as a sales lead and the role was pretty much, it had this consulting part of it, which was helping brands better understand how they can effectively leverage Google products, whether it's search or YouTube, to reach consumers at scale, right? And it was such a good experience because sales helped me get a job in marketing when it all opened up, right? That part of understanding consumer needs and sort of tailoring it. And so I joined the marketing team, was doing consumer apps. And so consumer apps include search, YouTube, maps, and everything consumers use on the platform regularly. And then in the last couple of years, I think the last 4 years, I spent more time in YouTube. YouTube is such a fun product, right? Because you're not just dealing with the audience, you're dealing with the creator ecosystem. You're also dealing with potential partners. So part of the work we used to do was talk to telcos. If a lot of Africans used to think the platform was very data intense, like you could open and, and we're a very data conscious society as well. So you have to work with telcos on, okay, how can we discount data streaming prices, right? And then you work with the creators. Oh, we have this lovely content. How can we help you optimize it, right? Think about strategy differently and storytelling. And then you think about the audience. You combine creators, combine data and say, audience, voila. So I did a lot of campaigns on the YouTube parts, did a lot of initiatives as well, launching different things that were tailored towards creators. And it was such an exciting journey that has now helped me with Woof Studios. So I know about media planning. To an extent, I do some PR, but I also am very familiar with marketing in itself, a bit of sales in my background, and then obviously working with the creator ecosystem. So now, hopefully with Woof Studios, which is really focused on the creator ecosystem, that experience will come to life.
Beautiful. I mean, when you were speaking about, your journey, I find it very interesting because make it sound so simple, but I think that looking at your journey and some of the places you worked at, it takes some level of, I wouldn't say grace, but it takes some level of intentionality, discipline, to get to that level. If you think back now, right, for the purpose of maybe a 25-year-old, 28-year-old watching this now, what key ethics or principles, levers would you say you pulled, during the course of your career to help you get to that level?
I've been lying if I said there's anything in particular. Maybe by default, as a person, I was very driven, or I do have some drive in me. But I think being in the right environment is important, right? And then maybe also having the right people around you. In every place I have worked. Okay, so I'll look at this. If you work at Google, for example, it's a very A environment. The A type, like achiever. Many of the people I was working with had MBAs from Harvard, Kellogg. What's the last one doing? So you're also coming to an environment like that, and it challenges you to be one of the better. Because first and foremost, they know things, so you want to absorb as much as they've learned and learn all of that, but you don't want to slack, right? So if you go into an environment where there are A-type people and you challenge yourself to say, whatever I know, I would be better at it. And then I feel for me, I wouldn't lie. I was a product of the internet. Right from after I finished secondary school, my dad, one of the cool things I feel he did was pay for computer lessons. So everything I probably use Google search and now AI in ridiculous ways. You can tell me something if I don't know, I'm Googling it. I was coming from the hospital, they mentioned something. I said, don't worry, I told Doctor, I'll Google that thing. Because I want to better understand. So I feel with my own journey as well, right from every single thing, I would intentionally go on the internet, whether it's watch a YouTube video or read something, just to improve my knowledge. And like I said, it's not one thing in particular. It's just being exposed, right? And exposure is very, very important. I feel like even right now, one of the things I'm challenging myself is you need to go into a new environment. You don't know what you don't know. True, right? And until you come to an awareness that there's knowledge that I need to grasp. So you need to also get to a point where, and this is about self-reflection, get to a point where, am I comfortable? Which is good, but am I being too comfortable? Like I've gotten to the point where I feel I know. But your job can become monotonous in a certain way. Right? So self-reflection helps you realize that I need to bounce into a different environment. And might not be moving physically. It might just be changing the crowd around you or just going to find people that know things that would help you, right? And so I feel that exposure is important, like being in those environments that challenges your mind to think broader. Like,
Interesting. I mean, for so many people, we only come across some of those consumer apps talked about, maps, YouTube, as users.
Yeah.
But for you as a senior product, manager, marketer at the time, you worked on everything, the entire 9 ends around that product. And they're fantastic products, to be very honest. In working on those products, for a new enthusiast, interested in going to product marketing, what would you say are 3 pillars, for any good product to become successful?
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, there's that process of ideation, design, development, but what in your own experience, are critical to develop and ensure that a product is marketable?
I think firstly, and I'm going to use the heart of being at Google. First is they spent a lot of money in user research, like ridiculous tons of money on user research. And I feel like Google's philosophy is know the user or follow the user and every other thing will work out, right? Which is fundamental. Sometimes I've talked to people and they're like, oh, I feel like I want to design. And I'm like, feelings are good, but is there data to back it up? Like, we can work on feelings later, right? So first and foremost, research. Understand if there's a market for this, right? But even before designing and asking if there's a market, find out what are the needs of people, right? So if you look at all the products, and I'll give you a few that comes to my head. Let's even use YouTube in itself. They do market research specifically for regions. There are many things that have been designed for the US, the global rollout, that you just realize that this thing is fantastic, but Africans won't care about it, right? So the first thing is understanding what are the needs and peculiarities of the market. What are some of the nuances that needs to work, and then coming back to the engineering team to deliberate, right? In some cases, you see that the information that comes from the market research informs better product decisions. So there was a time Google was rolling out all this, what they call light versions, like Google Go, YouTube Go, and it was designed for emerging markets. So markets in APAC or in MENA or even in Africa in itself. And these Go products were considering the device type, like they weren't designed for iPhones, with an Android market where there's the many devices were even 2, 3, early 3G, 4G phones, right? So also because of the data constraint, right? Thankfully, data prices have reduced, but remember that time where it was so high. So the Go versions might not necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell the difference in many situations, but they would have lowered the resolutions or the bandwidth or something to make sure that it's accessible. So that was off research, right? And within all of that, it helped sort of develop. So I've said the first thing is market research. The second thing to really do well is when, as a marketeer, you have to be a bit more, I use the word intimate with everything happening within the organization. So one thing at Google that I really found quite fascinating is that marketing folks are brought into conversations with engineering, right? And product market managers. And it wasn't as if everything was in silos. Because everything in silos is, hey, I'll do my own when they develop the product now. If you want to sell a product that you don't even believe it, it's hard.
Yeah.
Right? So that part of asking questions, very, very important. I wish I did a bit more of those, but it was very helpful for the companies to sort of push this kind of situation. So the second part of it would be just be curious, be inquisitive, make friends with folks, give solicited advice, not unsolicited, or let it be based off data. Because I feel like a lot of the product development folks, engineers in particular, nobody's going to discard when you give them facts. Okay, they just don't work with feelings. They don't work with emotions. They don't work with, give them data to back it up. So ask questions, be involved, and sort of navigate the whole ecosystem. And I'll say the last thing is just put on a creative hat, right? When you're thinking about, okay, now we've developed the product with engineering and we know, but I've also found out that marketing can be very templated if you're not careful. And templated in the sense that, yes, we want to launch a campaign. Okay, so let's do a TBC. Let's do radio ads. We'll buy billboards and then we make noise. And sometimes you make those noise and there's no significant shift in product adoption. There's no significant shift in awareness. And so sometimes it's not even about spending so much money to say, this is what we know. Marketing promotions have TBCs, radio, billboards, all of that. Sometimes you might not need all of that, especially in this digital age. I watch TV, but TV is a screen to me now. So I can watch anything on my TV screen, right? Likewise, I can't remember the last time I listened to radio. You're now in your car and streaming. So it's taking things from the unconventional way to being a bit more conventional. What works for this age, this time, this market now might not work the same way, right? So putting on your creative art as a creative or as a marketer requires that you ask certain questions on and play around. And I wish many people were in organizations that allow that flexibility, because I do understand some organizations are very, strict on how they do their things. But the flexibility to think about out of the norm, if we're rolling out something to drive awareness to a market, where are the best touch points? What are the best marketing tools that are applicable? How can we do pilots? There's a lot of A/B testing we don't get to do in this market because people consider time. Organizations sometimes spend a lot of times, those internal policies and things drag, and you want to launch next week. So there's no time to basically develop a proper campaign. And campaign development takes time.
True.
It takes time. It's thinking about strategies, going back and forth of it. And then let's even test this thing. Let's see if in a smaller market, does it work? And then scale, right? So I feel challenging yourself to say, what can I do creatively? It's the public with bottom way.
Awesome. So obviously you said insight from research. Data is critical because those facts are important. Also being able to wear your creative art, and play more, and just soak in more insights for better marketing. I think that's very insightful, As I want to go into what you just talked about now, but touch on user behavior. For the kind of work you do, even with content, these days, and just trying to tell stories, right? User behavior is critical to be able to connect with target audience or consumers in a way that resonates. But beyond that, from a data standpoint, what role would you say user behavior plays, for a tech-driven business or maybe a fintech, in ensuring that the product achieves market fit?
So I say this thing all the time. My mom is in her 70s. The mom I grew up with and the mom of today are two different. They're slightly the same, but slightly different. Because the mom I grew up with, I was having this conversation with someone that for a lot of us born in the 80s and we lived in the 90s and early 2000s, you will go to school and your parents will trust that you will come home because there's no way for them to call you. Your mom will go out and she will go, if you lived on the mainland, she will say she's going to a bedder in the morning. You trust that she'll come home, but there was no way to call her, right? And when I say my mom of then or my mom of now, they're entirely different. It's in the sense that the way she's adopted technology, right? Like it's default now. When I call you on WhatsApp, they can do all of that. I think it's important to understand, firstly, the role of the macro environment and how people change and their behaviors and patterns change, right? Right now, users are impatient compared to the users we had then. Like we knew all the commercials then, right? There's too much right now. So there's impatience that it requires you as a marketer to land faster. Like land your communication in a way that is disruptive and very fast. So storytelling requires that I understand that people, you want to take them on that journey, but you need to get to a point where the cliffhangers, so you hold them through that journey. So attention, with human behaviors, we're seeing that people are more impatient. The other part is that we're also seeing that there's so much that they can consume at the same time, right? So a lot of brands are spending millions of dollars or millions of thousands of naira on campaigns, but many people don't see it. And we don't see it because the amount of content coming to us on a daily basis is enormous. A platform like YouTube has over 750,000 hours of content uploaded daily. Talk less of the other ones, right? So because we're always creative, we're in this creative economy right now, right? So how do you see this human behavior where the person who picks up their phone approximately 200 times daily, right? And is constantly head down, even if they're in their car. So they might not see your billboards. Probably has their ear plugged in, even if the radio is on, because they might be streaming and watching, might not hear your ad. Is not watching TV. because they'll be on streaming platforms, right, would not see your ad. How do you make sure your message comes across? So these are some of the behavioral changes that we've seen with this generation that I feel like brands and marketers need to take into consideration, right? So that's another one. And I feel like, yes, technology might probably still be the best way, but users don't trust as much. I don't want it to be sold to. I don't think ads necessarily have an impact on most people these days, right? And so because users have more distrust these days, and many people just don't like being sold to, that's another behavior shift that you have to think about. Okay, what's the best way? And I know that a lot of brands have now started adopting like influencers and people that they know have communities that they can pull their community into. But the reality is that users don't want to be sold to. And so those behavioral patterns, you need to now really break through in an enormous way that makes sure that they hear your message, they're receptive to it and all of that kind of stuff. So this is something that comes to my mind right now.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. But I'm looking at it I want to look at it from this lens. During your days of Google, let's pick YouTube as a product, right? So YouTube as a product, and thankfully you mentioned partners earlier. So YouTube as a product is consumed by users, right? But there's that bit around who your I wouldn't say core target audience now, but who your partners are, and they could include telcos. They could include financial service institutions, in ensuring that you manage relationships, with those kind of partners, in selling your product to the consumers. Are there strategies that you've tried in the past that didn't work? If yes, could you share? And there are strategies that you've tried in the past that worked, and what was that like, for you?
So let's look at how partnership, I think, is one of those core things that helps with marketing. At Google, we used to do a lot of co-marketing, which is what it was called. So one of the things we used to do with the telco co-marketing campaigns was understand that, yes, people needed discounted data plans, and telcos were if you even look at the largest telco in the country, they have more power and data in their hand, right, in terms of how they're able to engage with consumers. And then there was this platform that had this huge portfolio or catalog of content that we could push out there. And so in working with them, we would come into a point to say, what are some of the nuances of the market, and co-develop a campaign. And so if I look at what has worked, firstly, a few things that I found quite effective when I think about what has worked is, one, bringing creators into the conversations, but was very, very important. I noticed a lot that if we've used creators as the anchor, as the voice, to say, go watch my show, go enjoy more of me, go watch dinner, and by the way, as you're watching me, get this 5 naira plan. It was more effective than both of us giants telling the user. So bringing in thought leaders who were creative thought leaders, who were content creators, to advocate for the platform. Or, inherently, I say this a lot, and I'm not wrong when I say that we're selfish as human beings. So if I bring a creator and I say, why don't you use this campaign to push your products? It was just easy for them. Oh my God, I could get views, all right? And so they were the faces of it all. So we did these campaigns that basically always puts not the brands, not our proposition, but always puts the hero as creators. Right? And the ones we don't put the heroes as the creator, we put the users as the creators. So we've had campaigns where users will show you all the things you can enjoy on YouTube. Whether you enjoy sports, behaviour, we show the guy who's doing sports. Whether it's cooking, the guy girl who likes to do recipes. Whether it is learning how to sew, the person who's learning. Even if you're a business person, the person who's coding, right? So we also heroed users in their different need states of what the platform could do, whether you're into entertainment, education, and that also helped the campaign. And I found that the best campaigns are the ones where the telco sits back. I don't know. For me, I just feel like we're in a day where, because telcos tend to over-communicate a lot of things, and so it could become a cluttered space. And because there's other issues that happen to do with the campaign, is they have a network outage, people are upset, right? So I always advocated for, why don't you guys, we can put all your branding, different colors somewhere, but why don't you guys search that book? Let's use, and those are some of the ones that I feel has effectively worked. What hasn't worked? I'm struggling with what hasn't worked. Well, I mean, I'm fantastic, so it was hard for me to think of what doesn't work, right? But I feel like maybe also in terms of the communication channels would probably have done. So there's some uniqueness with different communication channels. I feel, okay, I'll give some of the things that I feel haven't worked. And this is data that is, and facts that is out there. We run campaigns at YouTube, right, with our co-marketing and put it on platforms. They could get to a point where another partner, like a cable platform, might reject your campaign. Primarily for the fact that you're asking users to go to your platform. So we had those situations where, especially in the early days, where like certain cable platforms and programs were doing really well and you wanted to be there, but the cable platform could say that you're asking them to go watch movies on YouTube, but we got movies, so we're not running your ads, right? So this is one of the things I started thinking about differently, especially in later days, that, okay, how else can you reach those users? Because there's nothing you can do. You are a video streaming platform. They are a video platform medium. They're just subscription based, while you're advertising AVOD and their SVOD, right? So you also have to think differently on, okay, how else can I reach users because of that challenge? Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I know you're fantastic. Like you said, I know you're fantastic, and you're a great strategist at it, right? But there's always that misalignment sometimes with strategy and execution, right? So at that level, with the case study we're looking at now, how have you been able to manage such projects, to ensure that they land well? There's return on ad spend, there's growth in bottom line, for such, big projects across the continent.
Okay. So first and foremost, I think one of the things I've learned on this journey is, yes, you can delegate things, but you need to have a structure that nothing drops. And when I say nothing drops, imagine you've invested so much time on the strategy. You've invested so much time on building out the framework of how the campaign should run. But then you have the concept in your head. You have to make sure that, how do you interpret that to a creative agency so that they see the big picture, right? And then I also have to work with a media agency so that they see the vision. And then there's a digital agency as well. So that's another partner that needs to see the vision. Then there's a telco partner that you will have to make sure that they understand it, because they'll be looking at their, we can't do this, our CI, our this, what, right? So there's managing all of those stakeholders all at once. And so for me, in execution, one of the things I learned first and foremost was you need to make sure that you almost start this base work by making sure the person buys into you, right? They buy into your vision very, very fast, and pitch it to them, get their own perspective, see if you can enhance it, but make sure that if they don't buy into you, they won't build out your plan. I had probably one of the big challenges, especially with the media part of things, because media I could see a plan, I could predict a media plan. Like it was just the same one from last year, the one from the year before. And so I always used to ask questions like, okay, what else can we do with this programming and whatnot? So in execution, I was literally embedded everywhere. Sorry, that's a weird way to say it, but be in bed with everyone so that nobody's dropping the ball. That's one. And then when you're super comfortable that they understand the vision, and you put in a lot more in terms of, it's not with the intent to go into the weeds, but it's with the intent to make sure that nothing, if it comes out the way you want to come back, because you also have internal stakeholders that you have to make sure that they believe in what you're doing. So you go into 8 sessions with the creative agency and you tweak things there and there, right? You challenge them to go back until it comes to a point where you're super comfortable and they're also happy about the work. And then you now realize, okay, we're good. Same thing with media. And with media, it was almost like, what else can we do? Okay, bring the partner into the conversation, challenge the partner to do better. And so you're a bit more in the execution. And I feel like once we get to the point where there's a final sign-off, then you're relaxed. Doesn't necessarily mean that, especially from the creative end, but doesn't mean that you still are not having. So we used to have this weekly calls. What's happening? Give me an update. What do you need me for? Where's my, right? So that as the campaign progresses, they even come back a bit more excited to share ideas with you. Like, we think we should do this. And you're like, yeah, okay, that sounds cool, right? So I feel, firstly, as a I like to call myself a creative, and it comes out in different ways. But I feel like with the partners I worked with, there was that trust that, okay, this girl is a creative one. But once they also know they need to come with their A game, which is very, very important. Like for me, it's come ready. Because
That's boost.
not that very, very like things have to be a certain way. Yeah. So I feel like that's also very, very important that your partners understand, and then the vision, but you also have believe in them and they believe in you as well.
Makes a lot of sense. You can only do so much work around, ensuring that women, on the continent can excel in their careers. Have you ever faced any issue, as a woman, a woman leading businesses, and most importantly, for a young girl, out there, aspiring to be like you, aspiring to work with Google, aspiring to be a principal consultant like you today, what lessons have you learned, that could help her, stand out and be firm, even in boardrooms that are full of men?
The reality is, as a woman, have I ever faced issue that was particularly gender related? I don't think so.
Okay.
Me in particular.
Good. Okay.
Right. But I have heard, I've talked to somebody recently who said she had sexual harassment issue at her work or no. It's not happened to me. But with the work coming, and I'll tell you where there's a difference with working with an American company versus working with a Nigerian company. So prior to Google, there was a lot of Nigerian companies, and the diversity, inclusion, maybe it wasn't a thing then, right? But I also think it wasn't a thing that people thought about, because we had situations where, yes, you would have colleagues that, I'm going to pick my kids from school, I'm going on maternity leave and all, but there wasn't that intentional support structure that supported women and well-being and all of that. And my perception shifted when I got into an American company, that there was intentional structures. There were programs. I was chapter lead for Women Art. Women Art was like the ELG, Employee Resource Group for women. And I was chapter lead for Nigeria, and at some point doing some regional work. And it was like, okay, we would have meetings, understand some of the things for the women. We'll go on women off-site. There's the one that we went on in Cape Town. They'll do things, right? Just to support women in itself. There are very tailored programs about even mentoring up, right? Shadowing. They had all of this program just to groom me up. And then at Google, I had 3 female managers, right? And I feel like I had great male managers, guys, but I also had my female managers were the best, because it was more like one of the country head who hired me at Google. I just go to her, and it was just understanding conversations, right? And till date, they're like cool people I still engage with on a regular basis. So there are those women that would give you encouragement, but they will also call you out on your bullshit half of the time, right? I had radical kind of feedback. In fact, one of my managers, she is based in the US now. She's non-African, so she's Chinese American. There was one time after a meeting, and she wanted to give me feedback. I've never seen somebody that gives you feedback so softly. That's so soft and gentle that even I realized that, oh my God, that was good feedback. Thank you. But she taught me a framework, which I always use, called situation, behavior, and impact. So we're in a meeting, and I was giving feedback to an agency. I didn't like what they had done, but maybe I said in a way that I didn't like it and all of that kind of stuff. And then she joins me on this VC call. I says, oh, Titi, how did the meeting go? And I was like, oh, it went well. I think they could have done better and all of that. And then she goes, yeah, I think so well. But is there a way maybe we could have told them a bit better? So think about the situation that happened, then the behavior. The behavior is how you said it, and then the impact they had on them. So it might come back and just feel deflated or emotional and all of that. But it was such good feedback, right? And so I don't know, men tend to, maybe not, I'm not sure. But it was looking at someone who had empathy, but she found a way to communicate without basically bashing. You could have done this, right? So it was very reflective for me. What's my advice for any young girl right now looking at the career journey and wanting to work in tech? I think first and foremost, I've seen a lot of driven women, young women that are super driven. They know what they want to do and all, but they're always questioning, should I not? I think my own logic is I take decisions very fast. So I'm not dilly-dallying on should I not. Because it's either, if it's a yes, do it. If it's a no, find another way. You're not a tree. You must never feel stuck in any way, right? So in navigating that journey, and the great examples, it's a girl that comes to my mind she's now abroad doing an MBA, but she's very intentional. Intentionality is important. You always have to have a game plan. Even when you don't have a game plan, you always have to have something that is driving and pushing you. And so looking at my journey is thinking every 90 days, which is something I do, so how do you stay on stock? I hate patterns. I hate doing the same thing over and over again. So I always find new projects for myself, new challenges for myself. And I feel like if you move, the universe moves with you, right? So that part of networking is also important, using platforms like LinkedIn. I love social media, but I will go on LinkedIn. I've entered DMs of people. If they reply, fine. If they don't, fine. There's always someone else, right? So navigating and then finding out information. Like I said, my job from Google was a referral. And the referral was based off conversations we have had. So when the role came, it was like, just you can do this now, right? But we used to talk about, people should know what you're about. That's the reality. People should know that, based on what you're talking about, I have something for you. You understand me? So it's not every conversation that should be, you have your cliques. I have cliques that you can talk about fashion and hair and all those things are nice, but people should know you have substance. And when people know you have substance, especially the right people, they would advocate for you in rooms that you're not in. So that one is one of the things that I would advise. The other aspect is there's so much happening right now that there's no reason not to know. If I don't know something, it's because I don't care. You can ask me about climate change or ask me about, the Gaza Strip. I wish I have something to say. So know something about many things because it makes you a great person to have a conversation with, right? And so be within your own field as a marketer or whether in this space of digital and AI, take courses, just read off stuff, right? Know something about something. So when the opportunity strikes, whether you're in an elevator with a marketing executive on all of that, you will have something sensible to say. That's the second aspect of things. And have a plan. A plan basically is, if I don't like what I'm currently doing, where do I want to go? I've had conversations with certain people. I can't want it for you. That's the reality. So you have conversations with certain people and they can't clearly articulate what they want to achieve, right? And if you can't articulate it, it's hard for me to comprehend it, right? So articulating is, this is what I currently am doing. And value exchange is important, but I'll talk about articulation first. This is what I'm trying to achieve with myself. I'm working on this. This is my 5-year goal, or this is my long-term goal, or my short-term goal. Just make sure your mind is clear, right? But also make sure that the person sees value, and value is transactional, right? So anyone who comes to me right now, Adetutu, you're doing so many amazing things at Woof Studios. Thank you. I would like to engage. I'm thinking, what's the value, right? Value for my time, especially, but I hate people wasting my time. So what's the value for my time? And so it's not just about you wanting to get a job. It's what do I get in return? Do you understand? So I feel those are some of the things that I have sort of taken into context when doing my career.
Very, very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
I want to dial back a little. What was growing up like for you as a person?
Hey!
And what role would you say, maybe your parents, your siblings played in you shaping out to be this person that you are today?
So the way I look at it is this. I'm your typical middle child.
Ah, okay.
I'm a typical middle child. So I'm not the first child. I'm not the last born. I'm not the last child. I'm that child that at 10 years old, my mom put on a plane to go to London on my own.
Really?
London for 3 months. And then I came back. So typical middle child that she'll be okay. And I feel I gained independence very, very fast. But one thing that really helped me is people see you and say, oh, you're so confident, you're all of that. I think my confidence probably came from my mom. And I give her credit on this one because as a child, I use my hands a lot. So I could draw, I can paint, I can mold. My hands, Jana's darling right now, she'll be making billions. But I use my hand very well. So I could draw as a child. And so my mom would make me draw and everything. But it was always those times where, even till dates, if my mom calls me now, she's in a good mood to use the nickname Tao Tao, right? So I got praises as a child, which was very helpful. I got praises as a child a lot. And when I moved into teenage years, one of the things my mom did, so after finishing secondary school, I finished at 14. My brain was not there. I didn't jam, was doing everything was not doing well. So my mom was like, I'm supposed to sit in at home, go and learn. So I went to learn how to bake and in a bakery. I went to sewing school with someone, and I learned how to make beads, so I could use my hand. But in the bakery place, which was in Via, the owner, she fast realized that I could mold with sugar. So I could mold like Winnie the Pooh just by looking at it.
Well,
Sugar craft, like molding part. And she would do Tutu the Great.
wow.
Tutu the Great. I was 16, right? That pair. She would basically, so the praises really helped me say I'm dope. So there's nothing you want to tell me about myself. I know it. My brother used to call me Alangba. You know the Alangba? Alangba is the easy shit. So the story is like, you know how the lizard goes up the Iroko tree and the wind blows, and then it lands, and then it looks right and looks left and nods his head and basically says, if you don't heal me, I heal myself. I'm that person. I know how to self-praise myself, right? But I think it's as a result of being constantly praised as a child, like, oh, you're doing amazing and all of that. So that helped me with my own self-confidence, but also independence. So I started working, like even with the learning was the job, because you go into the bakery and you're learning how to do things, but she was also paying money, those transportation. So I started working very early. And so once I got into university, I worked throughout my university. I had an auntie who had an event company. I was doing events, right? So earning money from 15, like you're already independent. So it was easy for me to move out, do my own thing. So I feel those were some of the things that helped, but it will only happen because I think I was a middle child. So they go on your adventure, right? And then the praises combined. Yeah.
Very, very insightful. I mean, I love that because, while you were speaking, it also just tells that there's so much role that parenting, plays in people turning out to build theirs.
Exactly. I feel like it's not as if you didn't have your typical, things that parents you say, but I don't even remember them. That's the duality. I remember the praises. I don't remember anything that was negative. It was just the part of, right? Even my mom said me go and draw a card for somebody. One of her uncles drew a card for his 81st birthday. I wasn't even then. Wow. So just little things I feel are important in helping a child. Develop self-confidence. Yeah, it's important.
Awesome stuff. You said also that you're very driven.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that comes from a place of self-awareness as well. For a young person, within their first 5 years of working, yes, they believe that they're doing their best, but people are always complaining, you're slow, you're not doing this well. What would be your advice? What can they do, to become better persons or even become a lot more driven?
So environment is important too. I won't even lie, because I've been mentoring a couple of young ladies recently that are going through their own issues at work, right? There's a lady I met in France during the Cannes Lion Festival. She works in a company, I don't want to mention their name. And she's had, according to her manager, horrible manager for a while. So she's deflated. And the first thing I asked her is like, okay, so let's put your manager aside. Just assume the woman is a flying bitch and she has a room, right? What can you control? So her options were like, the first thing is within the organization, I was going to go to my previous role. So go back to my former manager who is happy to take me, or I leave. And I was like, okay, so you leave to go find another job because someone in here is this, or you go back to where you're coming from, or you had a reason why you left. And so for me, the question was, I asked her, what makes you a thought leader in what you currently do? Because the reality on ground is, no matter how bad you have some people condemning you, not everybody is bad. You get, even if your manager is going to influence other people and she hates you, there was someone who says, I see what she's doing. So I'm like, what's your own thought leadership? What are you doing that nobody can undisputably say you're not doing? And so for me, I'm not a perfect person. I had plenty, but what people knew, I get things done. I could execute. But I could think that person, I would design programs and move on, or where my bad side is, if you're staying in my way, I'll cut you off. Right? So I was very direct. And so one of my feedback was being too direct to people. But I got shit done. Pardon my French. Right? But that's how it was. So I always say, what is your thought leadership? So you're in an organization where people think you're slow. Slowness could be, and I don't want to say, slowness could be like you like to think. And so there's this thing that Google used to do, which I feel every organization should also do, which was a great way to work with people. So it was the many of them, they're like personality tests.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a particular one where you do where the blue color, the person does their assessment and they get a blue. The blue person is into the details. So there are people who like to do analysis. You need to give them data. Like you have those kind of people. You need to give them data, facts. So engineers will fall into the blue zone. Like some leaders will fall in there. Understanding that person is a blue person. When you go and meet them, you just don't go and meet them and say, oh, Timnai, hey. So I was feeling, no. But I come to you and say, Timnai, so according to this research that I see, you're more inclined to listen, right? So understand the blue person. Then there is the green person. That person works with feelings.
Okay.
So when you're communicating with them, you almost have to dial up a emotion part, and they like to be in the feel. So more like, oh, hi, Timlay. So, how are you? Right? All of that. So I feel, and so you need to, they're a bit more, this is how you communicate with them that way. Then there is the yellow go shine person. That person is the alpha creative, right? They say yes. They are the, let's do it. The energy,
Okay.
all of that. So you need to go with them, not sell the big picture to them. Sell the big picture, sell the vision to them. Forget the numbers. You can look into the numbers later. Don't go to that person and say, so data is saying they shut down. But tell them like, this is, they get them really excited. Then they're pumped into it. And then there's the red person. So I fall within red and yellow. The red person is the execution person. They're a bit fiery in a certain way, but they are alpha determined. They get things done. Sometimes they're still as brutal, but they sort of align with everyone. I feel those personality tests are very, very important when it comes to working with somebody. So if somebody seems to be slow, how do you engage with them to make sure that they feel that you can do stuff? And if you notice that people are complaining they're so slow, I feel like your value isn't clearly defined in an organization, mates. And it's on you, not on them, to define what your value is, which includes like, what is my spike? What is my area of strength? How do I capitalize on it that makes me valuable, show off and show out? Because what tends to happen internally is, yes, you might have immediate folks that might feel like you're slow, but if you're doing things that other people can say is relevant, they advocate for you. You have sponsors in organization. And then also the thought leadership that makes you recognized within the industry in which you exist. Because I feel those are things that are very, very important. So my advice to anyone who is in that space is think about, especially if you like your job, if you don't like your job, and that's why you're slow, my dear, you're not a tree. Move. Because sometimes you can stay in an environment so long to the extent that they ask you, where can I start going? You don't want to be in that situation, right? So if you also don't feel the vibe, start finding other things to do so you exit. Because that might be another reason you're slow. But if you really like the job and you want to show out, don't try to be everything, right? Generally, yes, you might know about everything, but pick one area that says, this area, if you wake me up at 2 a.m., I can get shit done. And then capitalize on making sure everyone knows that this guy knows what they're doing there. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that because it's also very actionable. So thank you so much for sharing that. So if you heard this, please act on it. There's obviously strengths within you that you can dial up. And just like Tutu has said, follow those processes and then I'm sure you'll be fine. Before we let you go, Tutu, just 2 more questions.
Sure.
So if you think about it, right, and you also just touched on it about thought leadership. Thought leadership from a place of impact.
Yeah.
How can one position themselves to be thought leaders? Not just thought leaders and just be on LinkedIn and make noise, right? But thought leaders and drive real impact. What would be your recommendation, to such persons?
I think thought leadership in itself is more other people advocating for you than you doing it, right? Because to your point, yes, we could go make noise on LinkedIn and write exciting posts and all of those kind of things. But action speaks louder. And action comes when other people see the work you're doing and how it impacts them, right? And they then go and start advocating for you. So I'm trying to build my thought leadership, and I'm thinking I'm doing slightly a good job, can be better. But I've realized that I just get a lot of, oh, this person spoke about you and asked me to engage with you, right? So it's more of other people that are sort of building your own credibility versus you actually doing a lot of PR around it. That's number one. And so putting an intention plan would be someone identifying, you can't be a thought leader across different things. You have to pick where you want to stand. So right now, I call myself a creative economic catalyst. And that's because at the heart of it, I'm a creative, right? I know marketing, I know sales, but I really enjoyed what I was doing with YouTube, and I want to support creators. And when I talk to creators, I want to talk about money, I want to talk about all these things. And I love arts, I collect arts as well. So the creative industry in itself, I want to help. But how am I showing up, right? It's not just the talk. I'm designing programs that I'm saying, okay, let's do trainings, let's get support. My agency was the first one in to take creators to Cannes Lions this year, right? So I took creators from South Africa, from Nigeria, from Ghana, and these were trips that had to go find sponsors for. So it wasn't just talking the talk. It's basically taking action. Do something that shows that you're at least reflecting that you're a creative economic catalyst. Right? And so as you continue to do those kind of things, challenge yourself of what else? Impact programs, workshops, seminars. There's a lot of those things. I actually don't like events. I won't even lie. I'm slowing down events. But things that someone can say, okay, that's what it impacts. Like, I'm now really focused now, and I encourage people, think about smaller instead of scale. Think of small first. Once you've conquered small, then you can go scale, right? So whether it is designing a program to mentor 5 young women and then give them all the tools, and then running a 90 days program where these women can take everything they've learned and see if there's action in 90 days and if there's output. Then you have a case study, right? But do things in smaller bits, and then you can then make noise. Because I feel thought leadership in itself, whether it is articles or anything, will come when people start seeing results and impacts. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Tutu. Final question. What's your vision for Africa? But in response to this question, I want to talk about it from that creator economy lens.
My vision for Africa, if you look at my LinkedIn, you see amplifying African voices.
Correct.
And the goal here is, I love this region. I had many opportunities, even in my last company, to leave, which this is well, I didn't take, because at the core of who I am, I love being home. I just love living. I think I'm better, but I love being here. You get close to home, family, and all of that. And yes, I do enjoy traveling. I do that a lot, but just living and being here is good. But I feel like we're one of the most creative regions in the world. We have one of the youngest populations in the world. We are resilient. There's that hustle mindset. There's that spirit of creativity. It's never a dull moment, right? If things work as they should. And so when I think about the future of Africa, I think about the fact that we're a continent that's currently sleeping and is gradually waking up, right? And once the giant wakes up, right, we will take over. And so Africa in the next couple of years is going to be at the forefront of driving a lot of culture. Our music is already doing that. And I feel like over the music, what else should we be exporting? And because the US dollar drives a lot of economies, including ours, whether we want to admit it or not, how can we export our culture to basically bring in more resources, bring in more revenue, bring in more investment, bring in more of those, right? And so the export narrative is what I'm advocating for right now, right? Better storytelling, right? Better production, right? Being present in the rooms and in the events and all of those where some of those decision makers are, right? All the multinational, I don't know one multinational that started from Africa. They are not there yet. But if you look at all your big multinationals, FMCGs, electronics, all of they are all abroad. We need to go into those places and we use all their products. You get drink their water, whatever. We need to go into those rooms and the presence where the decision makers are. Right? And if we are not, then what are we doing? Right? So for me, when I think about the future and my plan and my vision for Africa is how do we basically build the ecosystem of creatives that we have here? Because we know they exist. And then how do we make sure that we are more visible to the international markets, right? I love what is happening in Korea with K-pop and K-drama and all of those kind of things. This year, for the first time, K-drama took over the US with, what's that their one? The one that has the game.
Is this Squid Game?
Yes, with Squid Game or something. Like number 2. They took over the US. K-pop, right? You see what's happening in Korea, and they are so imbibed in their culture, not very in their culture, right? So we stay authentic to ourselves. That's the next thing. But how do we also go break into those markets where our stories are resonating? It's not about color or race, but the value shows for itself. That's what I'm hoping we do. And we take what templates that are already working in other emerging markets or even mature regions and say, okay, how do we distribute, right? So fingers crossed, there is a few more of me, right? Or many more of me that have the same vision. And we continue to sort of empower different people, right? Whether it's literature, arts, creatives or creators, right? New media, whatever it is, just do a bit more visibility globally, right? As we build from home. Yeah.
Awesome. It's been nice having you, on this podcast, Tutu. I know I said that was the last question, but I just want to ask the final one now, based on what you just said. For a creative, out there, they might not even be in Lagos, or they might be somewhere in Nairobi, they're very passionate about being a creative, being a creator. And also looking for opportunities, to get into rooms you just talked about. What can they do to prepare themselves, to get into such rooms and present real value?
So, 2 things come to my mind. I think it's important. Exposure is important. I won't even lie. And exposure is do your research and find places, people, events, communities. Just don't be in your own bubble. That's the way. Do your research and find people to network, follow, engage, right? So you see what else is out there, right? I feel like if you don't have, it's the same thing. If you don't have someone you are looking up to in one way or the other, like I look up to and say, oh, that's Oprah. What will I need to do to become at least half of what she is? If you don't have this kind of thing, you're just local champion mindsets. It's hard, right? So find the folks that inspire you. Find the communities that engage you and expose you to information that challenges you. I think that gets you to another level of stepping up. That's number 1. Number 2 is use the tools and resources at your disposal. There are people who are creatives that are not even on social media. Right? I don't like it. Okay, fine. Don't like it. It is what it is. We're in a world where technology is driving a lot of things, right? Even my dad is 80. The man is on Facebook all the time now. So we're in a world where even the older people are now using technology. So as a creative, you don't have to be a nuisance on the internet, but make sure your digital footprint is established because we are in that age right now. So whether it is picking solely one platform that resonates with the kind of work. I'm not looking for an artist to go and open a LinkedIn page. It's good, you find more buyers there, but first and foremost, you want to at least have an Instagram page where you can show your visuals, right? You can be inspired. This is a canvas. This is what inspired the work, right? Those guys there, engage them. They will become your marketers for the LinkedIn people, right? And that's basically how it works. But have one digital footprint. So when we Google you and research you, we find you. That's number 1. Second, that's number 2 actually. The third thing, which I would say is, we always wait for other people to promote us, right? So there are people who have, I'm not saying have a marketing budget for yourself, but you should have some marketing levers for yourself. Whether it is showing up at events. Look at what happens in Nigeria towards until end of the year. There is, I think from October, there's Fashion Week, there's ArtX, there's the other Fashion Week by the other brand. there is a lot of events that are happening, celebration, whatever. You want to go solicit to say, let me show. You want to show, because those places are free marketing tools, and in most cases they're not charging, right? So if you're an art person, is okay, I didn't get an access last year, can I go and apply and make sure I show? Even with what this lovely brand is doing here in this building, right? You want to show up because it's a free marketing channels and tools, right? And when you show up there, you also want to make sure that you write articles, find people that can help you amplify your own voice, because your voice might be in your hand, that you're a creative, and your strength might not be doing all the PR. But find somebody to say, I need great PR. The person might not collect money from you, it could be a family, but leverage that to put yourself out there, right? And that would help you.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
If you watched to this point, means you find this content exciting. Please feel free to share with your friends, your colleagues, and we'll see you next time. From all of us here at Stories and Journeys. Bye-bye.
Bye.